have you ever felt like you're grinding, just putting in the work, not seeing any progress, like you're stuck in place and you're constantly spinning the wheels? If you've ever been there, or if you're there right now, just stick with me today because I'm talking about something I call the frustration barrier. See, I've been there myself, and trust me, it's brutal. It sucks. It's shitty. You feel like you're doing everything right. You're showing up, you're putting in the work, putting in the hours, and no matter what you do, you feel like you're stuck in the same spot and nothing's working. This is a stage I think a lot of people hit, and honestly, it's where most people quit. So today, I want to walk you through some ways that you could survive the frustration barrier, but not only just survive it, on how to break through and get out of that dip and start the climb, and then also overcome. See, if you're feeling like you're hitting that wall, maybe even on the edge of feeling like quitting, even if you just want to know what to do when that frustration barrier does come up, then this video is for you. So to start off, I want to break down the different stages of the dip. Stage one, initial excitement. Let's start with the beginning of any journey. Anything that you've tried and anything that maybe you have wanted to do with some excitement. So this is where motivation is just sky high. Like you feel like you can take on anything, and no matter what comes in your way, you can tackle it. This is the part where you feel fresh. You're learning, you're growing, and the progress, I mean, you see it. It's noticeable. You see the strides that you're taking. You're putting in the hours, you're putting in the work, and you're beginning to see that needle move forward. But I guess an easy way to put it is kind of like the honeymoon phase, of any new project, job, skill, person. You're seeing those quick wins, and those wins become, addicting. It makes you feel like, yeah, I can keep on doing this because now you've got a little bit of momentum on your side. But this stage, that's the one that does not last forever. This is just the beginning, and that's where you hit stage two. That's hitting the dip. Here's where things start to change. You're still doing the same things, you're putting in the same amount of work, the same amount of effort, but now the progress feels slow, sometimes even non-existent. You're hitting roadblocks, and all that momentum that you felt in stage one, where there was that initial excitement, that motivation was high, it's just not there anymore. You're just not seeing it the same way, and this is called the dip, and it's when reality begins to set in about what you're doing and what type of journey you're embarking on. The initial excitement's gone. You're really just left with the grind and only the grind. Progress is slow again, and it's going to feel like it's non-existent. If you are making any progress forward, it's going to feel like baby steps. And this is where most people quit when they're in that journey, and they say, you know what, maybe this just isn't for me. And I'm sure you've all heard somebody say that, like, oh, that's just not my thing, or maybe I just couldn't really catch on to it. It's not that you couldn't catch on to it, it may not be your thing, you just didn't have the patience to continue pushing through. And once you can, and I'm just brushing over these stages, is there's stage three, and that is the climb out. But here's the thing. If you can make it through the dip, things will start to shift at some point. And it's subtle at first, maybe you're still struggling, but you start to notice small improvements. Something clicks, you're failing less often. The wins may not feel huge, but they're still there. And what happens next is you start to build that momentum again. You start to find a stride and a rhythm that you can fall into, and that's when you hit stage four, breaking through. See, eventually you hit this point where things start to make sense. It's that thing when you talk to people and it felt like everything just fell into place, and it made it moving forward a lot easier. It's like learning to ride a bike. You wobble, you fall, and then suddenly, without realizing it, you're cruising. That's what breaking through the frustration barrier feels like. It's not that struggle that goes away, but it becomes manageable. It becomes something that you begin to understand, and you're more capable. You become more resilient by going through it because you went through the dip, and now you're on that climb out and ready for the next challenge along that journey. Now, throughout those stages of the dip, I think there's some key points, right? So one is definitely redefining failure. So let's talk about failure, because if you're in the frustration barrier, you're probably feeling like you're failing a lot, like something and everything that you're trying is not working. And honestly, that's normal. I think when we got into the business, there were tons of ideas that we had thrown out there just to see how it would work, and they didn't. We kept on falling on our face, we kept on tripping, but at the end of the day, we kept on pushing forward to try to find what was going to be the right thing. And here's the mindset shift I want you to make. Failure isn't a dead end. Failure is just feedback. Think of failure as data. It's not telling you that you're not good enough. It's not saying that you should quit. It's just telling you that something needs to shift. And maybe it's the approach, maybe it's the technique, or even it's a way that you're seeing something in that shift in mindset. Whatever it is, failure is giving you information, and it's valuable information. So if you're willing to listen to it, then you can step forward better and make better decisions. And that's happened plenty of times, especially with what we've even done with Painkiller, because from an event standpoint, we don't have those backgrounds. And instead, we just had to learn along the way. So you're going to be missing things all the time because you're guessing how it should happen. You're looking things up, you're researching, you're trying to understand this industry that you're not even a part of. So how do you take those steps forward? And so this falls into really understanding the importance of adjusting. Now, what separates people who break through the barrier from the ones who quit is also how they use that information. They don't take failure personally. Instead, they take it as a chance to adjust. You tweak things, you make small changes, and then you keep going. You pivot. And instead of taking steps backwards and looking at that as something that you shouldn't be doing, you realize that maybe you're just setting yourself up to go in a different direction that can allow you to grow in the way that you want. And that's the difference. It's not about being perfect, it's about being adaptable. And then, of course, I will say this, you do have to work your ass off. This is really about also embracing the grind. The way I see this is consistency over motivation. You see, the hard truth is that getting the frustration barrier isn't about staying motivated. Motivation fades, and that's the truth. You're not always going to feel like you want to do it. We all know that. And what gets you through this phase is the consistency and the discipline. It's showing up day after day, even when you don't feel like it. And here's the thing, I get it. That's a tough thing to do. You just got to keep pushing. And even when the results aren't immediate, you know that you're working towards the goal because you will see those results in some way. Maybe not to the exact way that you were hoping, but you will see results. If I could offer some advice on things to just keep you motivated, keep you moving forward, focus on the small wins. Something that's helped me personally is focusing on that. They might not feel significant in the moment, but those small wins do build momentum. It's that thing that you hear when you say 1% better every single day. And maybe it's just doing a task slightly better than the day before. Maybe it's simply showing up on a day that you don't feel like it. All of that is a win. And you got to remember that even on the days that you didn't feel like it, you still showed up. You did it when somebody else didn't. And remember that, reflect on that, and really let them be the fuel to let you know that you are making progress even when progress feels invisible. Now, this is the hardest part I think a lot of people fall into, and that is facing yourself. This is about personal growth. This journey is about personal growth. The frustration barrier is personal growth. I just feel like I need to get real for a second with everybody. Sometimes the biggest barrier isn't external. It's not about the work or the skill you're trying to build. Sometimes this really falls into who you are and who you need to become to get to the next level. When you're stuck in the frustration barrier, it does force you to face yourself if you want to figure out how to get to that next stage in the climb. It forces you to reestablish your habits, what you might need to break. Is there a mindset shift that needs to happen? And that part is hard, it's uncomfortable. It's not easy to sit there and tell yourself that maybe everything that got you to this point has allowed you to survive is not going to help you get to the next point. It might make you really realize about maybe even the people that you're surrounding yourself with in your life, or the things that you've also settled with to make yourself feel comfortable and okay. It might not be what it is that you need now. I've definitely had to take some time, even in our growth, even right now, for personal reflection. But here's the thing, that discomfort is where the real growth happens. The frustration barrier is like a mirror. It forces you to confront what's holding you back, what do you need to learn, what happens you need to change, and what do you need to become, or who you need to become in order to be able to reach those new heights that you're hoping for. And when you're honest with yourself about that, that's when I think you start making the most progress. You take on more accountability because you start to realize that you really don't have control over anything external, but you can control how you decide to move. And that also means how you're thinking at that moment. If something bad happens, you think differently. If something great happens, you think differently. And here's something I recommend. Take a minute to write down some habits of yours, maybe even think about the patterns that you've had in your life, and not just the good ones, but the ones that you think might be keeping you stuck right now. And this practice is about being brutally honest with yourself and then committing to figuring out how to work on them or develop yourself past those. Because once you start addressing those internal barriers, breaking through the frustration barrier becomes a lot easier, because you start to realize that some of those movements that you make are just, habits. So to wrap this up, the frustration barrier is part of the process. And I want to make that clear because I know some of you guys are going through it. You're going to hit it again and again at different stages, at different areas of your life, whether it's business, in your personal, in your career. And every time it's an opportunity to grow, to adapt, and to come out stronger on the other side. The excitement, the dip, the grind, and finally breaking through. So we talked about the stages, the excitement, the dip, the grind, and finally breaking through. We talked about redefining failure, understanding how to embrace that grind, embrace that work, and also facing yourself. All these pieces come together to help you push through that wall. So the final takeaway, next time you feel like quitting, remind yourself that you're probably closer than you think. When it feels the hardest, that's often when you're on the verge of breaking through, so keep going. You're not just making progress, you're reshaping who you are in the process. So if this resonated with you, drop a comment below. Let me know your thoughts and experiences with hitting the frustration barrier. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you want more content like this. And if you're looking for more insights, make sure to check out my personal newsletter, The Playbook Papers, where I dive into deeper topics like this. Thanks for watching.